welcome with his talk, I Came, I Saw, iPad, Thorsten Jekyll.
When I was preparing for this talk, and some of you might remember that, I was asking for your questions and I was asking for your comments. And guess what was the by far smartest comment to my question, how do you use the iPad on stage? The by far smartest comment was, I try to avoid it. And you are laughing. And yes, you're right in laughing. And there are two very good reasons to not use the iPad on stage. Usually, I see reason number one, and if this is your reason, please stick to it. Reason number one is, I want to make a presentation and I don't want to hide myself behind a desk. I heard that you can get US president with it, hiding behind a desk, so probably it's not the question of the desk. But I remember far more talks without any media than those talks where you have all those fancy animations and wow and blinks and everything like that. So less is more. If that's your reason, stick to it. Second reason why people don't use iPads on stage is that there are a lot of misconceptions in the room. Probably not here, because you're all very professional speakers. But I know some people, and you probably might know some people too, that say, you can't really do things with the iPad like you can do it with a PC. And you're right, because you can do more. And I often hear, yes, but there are things I would love to do. And one question, for example, was to say, how about a clicker? You can't work with a clicker. And one question which I got was to say, which is the best iPhone app to work as a clicker? And sorry, I probably might not answer all of your questions, at least not directly. Because I say, yes, you can, of course, use the iPhone to commence your slide. Yes, you can also use your Apple Watch to do it. But I think that looks really stupid when you are on that. So by the way, do you know how you recommend people, how you know that people that are watching an iWatch, an Apple Watch? Every time they're looking at the time, they're doing like this. Because it usually doesn't turn on when you try to look up the watch. And that also happens when you're commencing slides. I did that once. And I tried to do it and it didn't lit up. So probably not a good idea. A good idea is what you see here. So because what you don't get, that's usually the problem, to say, how do I get this kind of USB stick into it? The bad news is there is no USB spot. The good news is, and I'm currently presenting with a clicker on the iPad. There are Bluetooth-based presenters in the market, and there are approximately 10 of them. You can skip all the testing part. I did that for you. This is the only one that works really well. And when you're asking yourself the question, where do I get that? You find good old paper on your seats. And there you find the first one, which is the Amazon UK link to this clicker. So I don't get any commissions for it. I just wanted to save the searching part for you. So you find a lot of tips and links, and you will even find some more. So don't panic when you think Thorsten is going through all those 3 pages. So this will be a timekeeping issue we will have. We won't. So you have some additional content you have on there. A second question I'm always getting is to say, you cannot take your files with you. So I have those large business presentations, those PowerPoint charts, those videos, and there's no USB stick to plug in. So not just only for the clicker, but also for the files. I cannot get it into. That's correct. But you don't need to. So what you can do is just use Dropbox, especially for the non-confidential stuff. And you can have all the stuff you need with you. And if you have an online connection or if you don't have an online connection, that doesn't matter. You can have it with you. And by the way, all of those who want to have it in digital format, you also find the download link on it. So this handout is also downloadable. It's online. So with the Dropbox thing, you can have all the stuff with you on hand on all your devices. And by the way, that also works for Android and for other devices, not just for the iPad. Another objection I'm usually hearing is to say, okay, probably it's always kind of files, we get that. But how about those messed up files with the fonts? You probably have seen that. So you prepare beautiful charts and all the fonts are looking differently. So there are 2 practical solutions you have. One is very pragmatic. Take Arial. That works in every system. So that's very pragmatic. And I did that once. When I was at BMW in Munich and I gave a presentation, I was able to train them a bit on the iPad. And I did just that. I said, take Arial. Guess the reaction of the marketing director. I think we have to talk about our corporate design, and this is definitely not a standard typo. And that's what I'm usually doing. 90% of my time I'm consulting large companies to say how can they be more productive with the iPad. But there are alternatives today. So what you can do is, as an individual, there is an app, and this is called AnyFont. And you also find that on your handout, on your notes. So when you tip on it on your iPad, you're directly coming to the App Store. And with that, you can install nearly every font on your iPad. And talking about giving benefits to your clients, those customers who have individual fonts, they will love you for that. Because that was a big obstacle in giving business presentations in Salesforce. They said, we have a corporate design, we need to stick to it. You can do it. And you can even distribute those fonts with mobile device management systems through all the complete organization. Just distributed it to a Salesforce with 1,700 people. Just one click of the central IT, and they all had their individual font on it. And they didn't have to change any of their presentations, because they were just working. And that's by the way, the stuff I love about iPads. They're just working. So that's just the point. It's not being dogmatic, but being pragmatic. Next objection I'm usually getting is, you can't play videos. There are so many flash files and special files which I can't play. And the first answer, yes, there are a lot of individual video players. So if there are any questions on this or other things, we have a break directly after the session. And I will be here not only for this break, but I will be here until tomorrow evening. So you can ask me questions until my check-in time tomorrow evening, which is 6:30. So if anybody wants to come to the airport, no problem. That's kind of the deadline to ask for questions personally, and afterwards, of course, online. Number 2, you can get videos into PowerPoint presentations, because you don't always want to switch between PowerPoint presentations and between other programs, and you don't need to. Practical advice, take either extension MP4 or M4V. You don't have to know what's that all about, just use those files with those extensions. That always works. And when you have presentations with that in your Dropbox, you can just play it and it works. No problems, no issues at all. But what do you do when you have videos in other formats. You can convert them. And there are also tons of programs, tons of apps where you can do it, and you can skip the testing part. Usually you had to do it on the PC. You don't have to. Steve was just talking about content. I'm producing my podcast, for example, which is on iTunes, on iPad for Productivity, how to be more productive with the iPad, on my iPad Pro, fully. And I do all the conversion with that I need. And I also do all my video conversion. So talking about creating content, usually everybody says, yes, with the iPad, it's a great gadget to consume content. Yes, you can. But since I have the iPad Pro, even in the office, everything you see was created with the iPad Pro. I have a brand new MacBook Pro at home. That's slow against that one. So much easier. And for those who are still working with Macs, you can use the iSkySoft software, and you find the links in the printed handout. And for those of you, I heard there's something which is called Windows. So I heard something about that. So there's a DVD VideoSoft free MP4 video converter, and which is also available in English. So everything I present here is also available in English, of course. And as you've seen, those are the links to Amazon UK / to your British App Store you can access to. So no videos is the question. Because when you don't have videos, a good idea is probably to think, how can I make my life easier? And what you see here is a PDF expert. And you say, PDF? What has PDF to do with presentations? And I'm working a lot with banks, with insurances, and I haven't seen too many financials presentations with videos and animations and all those stuff. So usually it's kind of boring, kind of facts and figures and all those stuff. And you probably know that some PowerPoint charts can be awfully large. So the PDF format is a format which has really big advantages for you. Advantage number one, it always looks as it looks on your PC. So you don't have to think about any fonts, about any fancy graphics. It just works. Number two, it's a smaller file which you can easily forward to your iPad. And number three, you can also forward it to the customer. And when I switch over now to PDF Expert, which is also on my iPad here, when we have a look at that, you can do the same things, because you don't see, do you see any difference? Whether I'm in PowerPoint or whether I'm in PDF Expert? I'm now in PDF Expert. You see exactly the same thing. And you also see that the clicker is working. And my bank customers love me for that. So if anybody of you is working in financial services, in people that are having those heavy financial things, they will love you for that. They will really, really love you for that. And the good thing is, you have some additional things. So when you want to highlight something, that's really easy. So when you want to highlight, there's a focus function, and I can just draw a circle around something. And when I draw a circle around it, you just have kind of like a little highlighter. And when you need to highlight another area, just highlight that. Do that with a PC. Quite difficult, I think. Talking about making presentations. Nikki told you that I'm working for a little soft drink company sometimes. And there we had a challenge. We had the challenge that they are working iPad only. So when I come into Salesforces, they have to give me back their notebook computers, because 2 devices doesn't make any sense in any Salesforce. So they say, how can I create charts? So it's easy. Number one, you can do it with PowerPoint, and all those charts you've seen, I can present them there. And they have those inspirational morning meetings. You probably know that out of some companies where you have those just 10-minute short sessions in the morning for the sales reps. And he did some really nice presentations, and I was asking him to say, how long did it take you to have this nice Coca-Cola kind of picture in this thing? I said, 2 hours to reformat it. And you probably know that. You have the best picture in the world, and it's in a square format. You probably have had that. And then you say, do I copy it? Do I crop it? Then it's get kind of pixel-wise. So some of you seem to be knowing this issue. So there's a solution to that problem, because what you see here is Haiku Deck. And what I love about Haiku Deck, it's super simple, super easy to present stunning charts. And I just show it to you live. So how do you do a new slide? You just press the plus button. And then you say tap to edit. Then you say, okay, what do I want to do? I want to make a chart, let's say for today, which has to do something about London. Then I say, okay, London, then I take just this. Say, I like that one. I say, okay, I like it. Then I say, I want to have a text. And then I say, welcome to PSA. That's it. Next steps I just press play. It's saving, depending on the internet connection, sometimes a bit faster, sometimes a bit slower. But I think that's the fastest way to do a really good-looking slide on the fly. And I did it really live here. And you have two benefits. Number one, you have one app where you have the search of the images, where you don't have to search it separately. And all the rights are covered. So you can use this also with public presentations. So these are all rights covered. And the second benefit is you can even not just present it, but now what you can do is you can export it to PDF, for example. So if you want to combine it with your existing presentations, you can even use it to add some nice-looking charts to your PowerPoint slides. That's Haiku Deck. Do that with a PC. Anybody who can do that faster with a PC, the drink is on my bill. Next thing, I was getting questions in terms of how about flip charts? My challenge with the flip charts is my handwriting, to be honest. So technology is not the bottleneck with my flip charts. Niels knows that I've been working on that heavily. We've both been to the same trainer, and so that's the bottleneck, is not technology with that. But for those of you who can really write very well, who can paint very well, I show you one of the best things you can do, especially on the iPad Pro. But it also works on the other ones. Because everything which I show you today works on the little iPad mini, on the classic, as I call it, regular sized one, or the iPad Pro. Currently, there's one special gadget which is only available for the iPad Pro, which is the Apple Pencil. You can't save the money for the keyboard. You shouldn't save the money for the pen. That's the best tool ever. Good news, if that's too big for you, you can also have the Pencil from 21st of March on. There are rumors that it will also be available for the smaller iPad for the Air of the 3rd generation, which will be presented. What you can do is now with the Pencil, you can just write. To say you have here your questions, and you can write your comments. And as you probably see, the bottleneck is not technology. The bottleneck is the question, how good can you do it? And believe me, Niels and me, we know some speaking colleagues who are really very good at really painting that. And this was made by and for artists. And what's the nice thing is, why not using flip charts? For two reasons. Reason number one is when you have a larger audience, in row 57, you can't read what you're writing on your flip chart. It's just too small. Then you say, okay, you can video it, and then you can see it in the back of the room. Don't know how your experience is. Sometimes even then it's difficult to see it. And when you're standing between the flip chart and between the video camera, so it's also difficult to read for the audience. And there are a lot of really, really very good whiteboard solutions. And in asking for one of the recommendations, which I would highly advocate, is coming from Alan Stevens, was Doceri. So Doceri is really an absolute brilliant tool for everybody who wants to see how to use Doceri in speaking and training situations. The best man to ask is Alan Stevens, because he's working with it. So take the chance to ask him. Absolutely super tip from him, which I can highly advocate. The next thing, which is intelligent, why use it? When people take photos, when they post it on Facebook, when they tweet it, I make sure that my logo is on it. My internet address is on it. So everything people shall remember. So when you as a meeting planner make a photo, so you know how to contact me afterwards. And it has also a kind of, and I think talking about being professional, I think it makes a difference whether you just open up a standard whiteboard solution or whether you have it branded to you or even with a customer logo. And when you're like me, not so good at painting things live like iPads or other things, you can prepare it. So what you can do is, we were talking about Dropbox, and you say, okay, Dropbox helps you to synchronize all your stuff between all your devices, and you don't have to think about, am I working with a BlackBerry, am I working with an Android device, or whatever. And by the way, what you're also finding there is Exchange. Exchange is the by far smartest way to keep all your Outlook data in sync. So all your emails, all your calendars, all your addresses, everything like that, that's Exchange. It's working with all the platforms, and in your handout you find their recommendation, which I always give is, and that recommendation is for those who says he's just an Apple fanboy. No, the best recommendation is to work with Microsoft Office 365. Anybody in the room already working with Microsoft 365? Wow, you're very smart. That's what I said to Niels. So being here at a regional meeting in London, the level you have here is far higher than what we have on a national conference level in Germany. Absolutely. Really brilliant. If I'd asked that question in Germany, so I would just have some question marks in the eyes. So absolutely. Great, gorgeous. I love to be here back again. And what you can also do is, I'm not very good at painting Formula One cars. Yes, but there are people where you can buy those stuff. And then you can say, okay, what is it about? It's about productivity, for example. And then you can write it, you can use it. So that is GoodNotes. And talking about preparing speeches, it's not only what you're doing on stage, but it's what you're doing before your gig. What are you doing after your gig? And what you can do is, even with that, you can also use it to make your own stationery and to integrate it. That's, for example, stationery which I did for a customer. He already had that. So it's not only possible to make your own stationery for the whiteboards, but also when you're taking personal notes. And that's looking by far more professional when you're talking to a meeting planner and you're writing down that and you're sending it as an email to him. And that's not just something which is difficult to read and not branded. Mine are still difficult to read, but they are branded at least. That's what I love. I said, talking to Jeremy Nicholas, and I was in his masterclass, I said, I try not to be funny here today. Most of the times I am, but not deliberately. So that's with us Germans here on that stage. So talking about preparing those meetings, another thing I love is mind mapping. And some of you gave me great recommendations on Mindscope, for example. There are some great mind mapping tools in the market. And I'll show you the one which I use, which is iThoughts. And why do I love iThoughts? I love iThoughts because, like other mind mapping tools, you can use it to structure talks, to structure questions, and you see those were some of the questions I was collecting. And I was just using it the other day when we were talking about a series of 4 evening speeches, talks to bank customers, to older customers about how the internet works and everything like that. And we were sitting together in their boardroom, and they had a large TV screen there. And what we just did, we were sitting there with 5 people, and I was just pulling that mind map on that screen, and we were just collecting ideas and putting that all together. As we heard before, not by scratch, of course, I had some basic content, and we added that in. So you can use that to structure your content for yourself, plus you can use it to go through with your customer to say, okay, how can we customize the talk? What are the questions which we think which we will have? Very, very nice. Steve just mentioned Evernote, and I would like to comment on that. Who's using Evernote? Hey, that's great. You're so smart. That's super. I love Evernote for collecting all the stuff which is interesting for you. Because every time I have a great idea, it's not when I need it. So usually it's I find something and then I say, oh, that would be great for a talk. And probably some of you know that. So with the Evernote, it's super great and super easy to collect stuff. And you can even do that on the internet. So when you are on the internet somewhere, and you can even do it also on the iPad. You are on a page and you say, this is something which is interesting for me, the London region here from the PSA, and you say, I want to save that. Because the question always is to say, okay, I usually don't find the web page when I need it in terms of all the dates and everything like that. So when you have those pages with dates, you can do that on the PC, of course, but what you can also do is you have just an arrow here, and with that arrow, I can just say, clip it to Evernote. And that is something that it asks you to give a comment, to give a place to store it, and then you have it available in your Evernote. And then you see you have all that. You can fully search it, and even when you're offline, you find it all the time. And when I see here PSA, for example, what you do is you can also use it. I was here in January as a participant, so I usually use it like today also when I'm getting smart content, smart idea, I'm just taking my notes in Evernote. And when my wife, today she's here, but usually when I come back, she asks, how was the conference? And I said, look at Evernote. So you can also share content within organizations and also within families. That's a very smart tool to do that. And this also gives me a chance to answer a question which I was just given in one of the last breaks. To say one thing which I got as a comment just today, so that you see it's not only fake presentation, so it's about interaction I learned, so it's about asking questions and answering them. One comment I got in the last break was to say you can't search within web pages for content on the iPad. That's one comment I received in the break, and I said, I need the PC for that. Said, yes, you can do that on the PC, but you can also do that here. You just tip in that line. When you're Googling something, you just enter that, but you can also do that on a site. You say dates, and then you find below it says on this page. And then I say find dates, and then you find it on here. Just a small tip, which I was hopefully answering your question, which you had in the break. So one possibility. Another small tip, when you have long pages. So this one isn't too long, so going to a bit of a longer page probably. So we have a lot of stuff on it. And when you want to go to the top, what do most of the people do? I assume you're doing like kind of this. Being nice to your iPad. Do it shorter. Just go to the top, to the watch. 1453, when you hit it, it just jumps to the top. And that works for everywhere on the iPad. When you are somewhere, just tip on the clock, and then you're on top. And it just doesn't work on the clock. It actually works on the complete top line. And it also works when you have 2 columns on every column. So when you have an email which is forwarded 225 times, so and when you're at the bottom at the first email, and then you just tap to the top line, then you're on that. When you have all those subfolders, and where people say, you cannot collapse and decollapse those subfolders. The bad news is, no, you can't collapse and decollapse them. The good news is you can tap just on the Wi-Fi sign, and then whoops, you're on top of that. That works everywhere. So that's just a small hint you have. Talking about being on-site and off-site. I have a customer in sales, and he said, I have a problem. I'm talking to people, I'm talking to probably meeting planners, and he's hanging on the phone. And I want to just jot something, and it would be great if he could see what I'm just painting. There's an app for that. The app is called Jot. With Jot with Me, and I love that, and you have that on your handout. What's the basic idea? The basic idea is you are sitting in your office, you're sitting at an airport, and you're going through with a meeting planner through the next conference, and you're talking, for example, stage setup. So I have that quite regularly, that people say, where did you want to have your table? Because I have that challenge that I usually want to have some kind of a place where I can put my iPad. And I say, are you on the internet? And then I say, just go to jotwithme.com and then enter your session name. And usually, I give the name of the customer. It helps when you know how to spell it. The customer usually knows it, how to spell it. So you just give the name, and everything which you're jotting, he sees that in his internet browser, on his PC, on his iPad, on his Android phone, wherever you're doing that. And it's just working. So that is really what I love in terms of it is just working. Talking about fancy things, you can do some fancy things. And I said in the beginning, yes, you can do really fancy things with technology. But please, and I'm very lucky that we have Boris in the afternoon there, I always say, turn on brain first and then technology. So you should have been before my talk today, but you are smart enough to turn that round. So what you can do is what you find there. Has anybody worked with Prezi yet? Zooming presentations. And I'm a Prezi hater. I say I'm a Prezi hater. Not because Prezi is bullshit, sorry, but I hate it because most people don't understand Prezi. And I'm a kind of a mission to say, understand those tools you're working. Prezi makes sense with something like that you say you have a full picture that makes sense. So when you, for example, want to explain somebody your resume, which kind of experience you had, what you can do is you can just take a photograph of your desk and say, let's have a look at the desk, and with the desk, you can just switch on, and you can just say, go through it, and you can zoom in something, and you can zoom out of something. When somebody has a question, you can just say, okay, which is your working experience? And you can say, okay, I was, for example, working, also we heard it, this as a real-life managing director, so you can go and zoom in and zoom out. That absolutely makes sense. Please don't do something which you see here, which I call it here the VPV4 here, which you see. So this is Prezi misunderstood. Don't do this, because it doesn't make any sense. Or does it make any sense for you in terms of, is that a picture that makes any sense? Doesn't make any sense. So coming back to the point I was making to say you can work with PDF tools. You can work with smart tools to be more productive with the iPad. The most important thing is that you have a message and that you bring that by the help of technology, but it's you that is standing out. With this, my final message to you is use technology in a smart way. It can be the iPad, and if you have any questions, I'm here for you in the break and afterwards. Thank you.